Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Back with another live stream. Back talking football. Another sort of rambling session. A lot to digest and get into today. We're going to be talking obviously about the fallout to Everton's 10-point deduction. We're going to be talking about why Manchester City and obviously Chelsea are worried about the situation and why they probably should be worried about the situation, because they are in some serious danger of not just being in trouble in terms of maybe a points deduction, but in terms of maybe being relegated as well. That could also be something for them two teams in particular to be concerned about. The international breaks also finally over. God, these past 2 weeks have felt like they've dragged, haven't they? We've been subject to Southgate ball for the last for the last week or so in dreadful, boring snooze fest of circumstances with obviously the England national team. I found myself trying to watch other international games, but it's just not the same, is it? The international football is just not the same unless it's a major tournament, is it? Like I say, don't get me wrong, like watching a bit of Ukraine last night, hoping that they would get through over Italy. Absolutely robbed. Like, I don't understand how that cannot be a penalty on Mudryk in the final minutes or seconds of the game. Like, I don't understand how that cannot be a penalty in favor of Ukraine. But again, it wasn't exactly a night to glorify refereeing. Turns out refereeing isn't just as bad in the Premier League as it is elsewhere. So, yeah, another great night for referees to really take the center stage on yet again for all the wrong reasons. That's over and done with though now. We move back to the Premier League this weekend. We'll give a little bit of a preview to that. Obviously, I'm going to be doing my Premier League predictions video either tomorrow or Thursday, so keep your eye out for that. Intriguing stuff though. Very much intriguing things going on in terms of obviously what's going on with Everton, that being the big news story that has really blown up these past few days and has really been just taking center stage and taking the spotlight really from everything else. Like, this international break's been a bit dull. So I hate to think what it would have been like if this news hadn't have blown up about Everton and this news hadn't have obviously transpired from that point of view. Before we go any further in talking about all of that kind of stuff, the international break and anything you guys want to talk about, would like to remind you all to please like the video, subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and forever be greatly appreciated. Also, get involved in the comments section. Would love to hear from you all about anything that I'm talking about or anything that you guys want to talk about. This is kind of an open, bit more of an open forum today. I want to kind of gauge you guys and for you guys to tell me what you want to talk about. If you have any interesting questions, any interesting sort of queries or predictions or anything along those lines, would love to hear from you all. Whether it's questions such as, would you take this player or this player, this manager or that player or that manager? Is this manager better than this manager? Is this player better than this player? Or is this team this player better than this team? Or where do you think this team will end up this season? Where do you think that team will end up this season? Would love to hear from you all throughout this entire live stream. But without further ado, let's get on with the video. Let's get on with talking about Manchester City, Chelsea, Everton, this whole FFP breaking situation that has really taken the international break by storm in terms of footballing news and club footballing news at that. Obviously, I made a video on Friday, a video which I thought personally was one of my better videos in terms of me actually sticking to a sort of plan as to how I was going to begin the video, then bulk of the video, and then the end of the video. I actually thought it was actually a video that I was actually okay with. Normally, my videos tend to be a bit of a ramble and a bit all over the place, and I'm going backwards and forwards constantly, or I'm going around in circles constantly. That one actually seemed to me to be okay in terms of planning out the video. So I was quite happy with the way that obviously that came out. But obviously the overall bottom line of that video was about the news story, of course. And the overall news story was obviously harsh on Everton fans because it's not their fault. I ultimately feel sorry for the fans. In any situation here where the fans are not to blame, it's the club. That's where I have serious sympathy for fans of that club. And it will happen when, if or when Chelsea get hit with a punishment, or if and when Manchester City get hit with a punishment. Ultimately, it's the fans that suffer because obviously they have no say in what goes on behind the scenes. They aren't the brains of the operation. They aren't anything to do with the way that the club is run, how it is run, and off the pitch operations. They just basically put their money in. They go to the games. They watch the games. They spend their hard-earned money on merchandise, on tickets, on even the platform packages of Sky and TNT and whoever else you've got going on. The fans are ultimately not to blame in this situation. It is obviously the people behind the scenes running the entire thing. They are the ones to blame. The fans are just collateral in that respect. So I do always feel sorry for them, the fans. Everton fans, obviously no exception to that. I do feel sorry for them. We may be rivals as a Liverpool fan myself, but ultimately it is what it is. Your club has been run poorly. Your club has made some poor decisions. And the fact of the matter is that obviously your club took huge risk and huge gambles across these past few years that ultimately has cost your team right now to having a 10-point deduction. Now, as I said in the video, I don't think the 10-point deduction is going to mean a great deal in the grand scheme of things. You weren't obviously going to be pulling up any trees in terms of challenging for European places, I don't think. Don't think you were going to be going any higher than roughly, at most, a higher up finish in the bottom half of the table. A 10-point deduction here is not great, obviously, but at the same time, it's not going to hinder your season because having looked at it these past few weeks, having looked at the way that you've gone about your business on the pitch, and having looked at the other teams that are around you in that sort of relegation battle, Everton are at least the fourth worst team in the Premier League, at the very least. So you are fine in terms of that aspect. You will not be getting relegated from this unless the punishment could possibly get even worse. We should always throw that caveat in there that the Premier League and obviously other teams that have been relegated in the past have seemingly tried or are trying to see if they can escalate the situation to inflict more punishment on the Toffees going forward. If that obviously is to happen, we may actually have to have that conversation a bit more in serious depth going forward. But ultimately, you're not going to be going up any further than what you were before that 10-point deduction. You're not going to be dropping into the relegation zone or staying in there come the end of the season. You'll be fine. Like I say, there are at least 3 worse teams than you. You'll be fine, ultimately. You'll be fine. Do I think 10 points is severe? I really cannot say. I really cannot say whether it is too severe or not. Punishment had to have been made for a statement to be made about you can't be breaking FFP rules. So I applaud the Premier League for that, and I said that in the video that I did. We need these rules to stick, but we also need these rules to be consistent. Everton themselves even basically admit that we think we should be punished because we messed up. We took risks and we gambled on things going our way, whether it was, the COVID season, which didn't help anybody, but it affected Everton. And then, of course, for the couple of years afterwards, appointing Carlo Ancelotti, having that good season during that COVID season, but then ultimately dropping off towards the end, Ancelotti then leaving, poor transfer business that occurred time and time again, and then, of course, results not happening on the pitch have all kind of gelled together to obviously create this huge mess for Everton, in which their gambles and their risks didn't pay off. And ultimately, that's what led to them breaking this kind of FFP ruling. Ultimately, it's led to this 10-point deduction. Fair, not fair, you be the judge. Whether they can get it cut down or not remains to be seen. They're going to obviously appeal the severity of it. But it now sets a precedent that this needs to be followed up with. And it needs to have as speedy as an investigation process as what this Everton situation has on other teams, not just the Chelsea one, not just the Man City one, but on any team that's seemingly broken FFP. There needs to be a speedy investigation process like there was here. And there needs to be a consistency in terms of punishment. Because if you're punishing Everton with 10 points here, Chelsea's situation, despite obviously them being the whistleblowers of their own making, I guess you could say, because they ultimately are the ones that blew the whistle on their operation under old ownership, of course. And Manchester City's 115 charges are surely a lot worse and a lot more severe than Everton's. I mean, they won things. They won trophies with the foundation being built on dodgy dealings, backhanded or behind closed doors payments, brown envelopes, that kind of thing. I find it hard to believe that City are going to get away with anything because there's 115 alleged charges. I imagine a few of those may be able to are not as severe, or maybe a bit of an oversight or an overlook, and may be able to be worked their way around by City. But I imagine the majority of them 115 charges are pretty severe. I would imagine so. I would find it difficult to believe the Premier League has found 115 charges that either is a complete and horrific oversight by the Premier League, that none of them are legit or none of them will stick, or they're not severe enough to be punished. Plus, that happened, like I said in the video before, that happened over a year ago, and we've heard very little updates since. Why is that? Surely you've managed to find enough evidence to charge City with something, because the longer that this goes on, the more that obviously the more that obviously it will continue, and City will continue to outrun it, and they'll win more trophies, and they'll corrupt and taint the league and any kind of competition that they're in, and that they actually go on and win with the foundation of potentially cheating. So I think there needs to be speed on the Man City one. I think there needs to be speed on the Chelsea one, and any other clubs that you're investigating. Let's not forget, I firmly am under the belief that every club at some point has edited the numbers to be more favourable, edited the numbers to be within line with certain rulings, restrictions, laws, and regulations. I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case. Whether it's my team of Liverpool, whether it's a rival team like Manchester United, City, even some of the smaller teams in the league, like a Brighton, like a Brentford, like a Crystal Palace even. Whoever it is, it doesn't matter. if you ultimately broke the laws, you deserve to be punished. And I would say that it is possible that a lot of teams have done it. And there could be a huge domino effect to come from this. The Everton thing is the start. City obviously being investigated. That should hopefully come out soon, you would imagine, if they're going to tackle the Everton situation with as much speed and as much force as possible to try and inflict and make a statement on these FFP laws. You would imagine that City should be the next target. Chelsea, for slightly different reasons, obviously are going to be looked at, and we're going to be probably next in line as well to be punished. But I would bet save money that there are possibly other issues at play. I would safely bet that there are other teams that are under investigation. I'd safely bet that no one's squeaky clean when it comes to these types of rulings. And like I said, the domino effect that could come from this could be very much severe. Now, in terms of obviously City and Chelsea's case, which are the known cases here, the punishment probably would be relegation. That's what everyone is talking about. That's what people are saying, that relegation could be a huge possibility for these two teams going forward. Now, whether that actually happens or not obviously remains to be seen. Will that actually happen? I don't think anybody's... Some people are not buying it because they think that money will just be slid under the table and no one will say any more about it. There'll be evidence that mysteriously goes missing. There'll be charges that are or could not be fully backed up by evidence, or whatever the case may be. I don't know, man. I don't know. It would look really bad on the Premier League, and you could go down a route of like what Serie A has done these past 20 years or so, in terms of the downfall of one of the biggest and best leagues in the world at one point, particularly during the 90s, where match fixing, financial regulations and things like that all came to fruition, and Serie A completely was dismantled from the inside with the amount of dodgy dealings and dodgy things that were going on behind the scenes there. But it is very interesting that this is all coming out now. And I think with obviously the international break now being over and football returning, this could be... it's all good news for those that are involved, isn't it? Because the focus will shift. The unfortunate thing is that the focus, for now at least, will soon shift. We'll talk about Everton's point deduction, and we'll talk about it going into this weekend's fixture with Manchester United. But afterwards, after this week, something else will probably happen. Probably another VAR decision, knowing how the Premier League is currently at. And Everton's points tally will slowly but surely die down. The points deduction will slowly become old news. Manchester City and Chelsea's cases will fade into the background for now until the relevant time to bring them back up again. And we'll focus on the next thing to come about, which will probably be, like I say, a VAR call, because obviously VAR, despite being poor over the international break, has obviously taken a bit of a backseat role. So this weekend, when you've got Liverpool taking on Manchester City, which is a massive game, and obviously a big game between the current top two within the Premier League, massive game at the Etihad, Saturday lunchtime, 12:30 kickoff, Manchester City taking on Liverpool. When you've got that, and you've got the possibility of another dodgy referee or VAR call that's going to overshadow things yet again, it possibly comes at the right time for these people to kind of let this story fade into the background for now. Whether that will happen or not remains to be seen. The relegation fear for these two teams, I think, is quite severe. And I think it is a very realistic possibility because, if they're going hard on this one broken rule by Everton, which does seem harsh, and like I say, can be further escalated by the fact that the Premier League is still looking into it. Everton are going to appeal it. And of course, there are potentially other teams that are involved in this, mainly the teams, of course, that Everton managed to beat in previous years to survive relegation. It could be further escalated in that aspect, which obviously could spell bad news for Chelsea and for Manchester City if they are indeed found guilty. Chelsea's case, like I say, maybe somewhat helped by the fact that they blew the whistle on their own operation. Well, not technically their own operation, but the previous regime's operation. So the punishment might be somewhat less of what it possibly could have been because they were the ones to bring it up to the Premier League. And of course, it happened under the old running of things. Manchester City's cases, though, 115, if you're telling me that you can't get the vast majority of those 115 cases to not only stick, but be severe enough to be brought to the public light and be severe enough to obviously warrant severe punishment, I call it as being extremely dodgy. I definitely call it as being extremely dodgy, and I wouldn't believe you for a second if something severe wasn't to happen. It would look bad on the Premier League, 100%, but it could look even worse in a few years' time if they don't start looking into these kinds of matters and they don't start looking into these things. There is obviously a lot to look at this, and there's obviously a lot to kind of wonder about, and obviously a lot to digest and look into with this kind of topic. But the overall bottom line is that there is worry. There is worry there that Chelsea fans and City fans could be watching their teams in lower leagues in seasons to come. And it'll be very interesting to see how they bounce back. It'll be very interesting to see what the financial restrictions are on them. It'll be interesting to see what does happen to their teams going forward with these kinds of investigations going on. But yeah, we shouldn't forget the bottom line is fans ultimately suffer. And even if you're a neutral fan in this, you sort of suffer too, because I'm guessing the large majority of football fans don't just follow one team and that's it. I'm guessing the large majority of football fans follow the league that they are in, or follow multiple leagues that they're in. If you're a fan of the Bundesliga, say, you may also take a keen interest in the Premier League. I myself, obviously big Liverpool fan, follow Liverpool through and through, but at the same time, I watch the entirety of the Premier League as best to my ability. I also watch certain games in the Championship when I can. I try to watch some Bundesliga here and there. I've not really been. I've been paying attention a little bit this season, but I haven't watched as many games this season as I probably have done in previous years, and I really should get back into the Bundesliga because it actually is quite interesting with how Xabi Alonso's Bayer Leverkusen are playing right now. But at the same time, you get my point. You are not only following your team, but you're following other teams, and you're following the league in itself, and you're following other leagues as well. You lose out when things like this happen because ultimately you want to see the best of the best. It's why people have concerns with injuries as well, with obviously the amount of games that are being played and the amount of injuries that are piling up. You want to see the best of the best. You want to see competition at the highest possible level. But you can't get that if obviously teams are breaking the rules, teams are being relegated for it. And it's not an excuse, by the way. I'm just saying that you want to see the competition at the highest and fairest level. You need to be looking into these rules and seeing who's breaking them, who's not, who deserves severe punishment, who's going down, who's staying up, that kind of thing. You want to see that competition flourish under the fair and square rulings and restrictions that are being put in place. Simple as that. Especially when you're paying a lot of money for these streaming services that are presenting them to you week after week. It just obviously it's just as simple as that, isn't it? It's just as simple as that. And obviously, like I say, we wait and see what happens, but don't be surprised if after this weekend, when the Premier League does return, this kind of story fades into the background a little bit, because that's ultimately what happens. And it would be good for City if that was to happen. It would be good for Chelsea if that was to happen. For now, even though they, like I say, blew the whistle on their own old school operation. But wait and see. We wait and see, obviously, what happens with this situation. I personally don't know. I personally do not know what is going to happen. Like, it's very much unprecedented in these times. And I know that, obviously, Everton's situation hasn't exactly been out the blue either. It hasn't exactly been like the first time it's been done. It's the most severe punishment given to a Premier League club of all time. But it's not exactly like it hasn't been done before. I think it was done Middlesbrough before. And even if you go down the leagues even further, of course, the Championship, League One, League Two, that kind of thing, it obviously has occurred regularly to lesser teams, with all due respect. The City one and Chelsea one, though, could be very, very intriguing. But that's why we have these rules. These rules are not put in place to stop teams from being built up from the ground to compete with the likes of City. They're put in place to even the playing field a little bit. They are put in place so that teams have the opportunity to challenge, to obviously not have the gap between them be so vast and so huge that you cannot compete. It's why you have teams like Luton in the Premier League. It's why you have teams like Sheffield United in the Premier League, and they give some of the bigger clubs a run for their money. That's why these rules are in place, to sort of level out the playing field a bit and make sure that your success is rewarded. That's why. It's not simply for the fact that you can't build yourselves up. It's the fact that obviously it's about the challenge, it's about the competition. It's about reaping the rewards of success and building on those. That's why we have these things, and obviously they need to be followed by. Don't be hypocritical about it. Football fans have been calling for this for years, that when we see something that looks a little dodgy, that looks a little weird, we call it out. We have done time and time again. We've said time and time again that we need these things to be put through thoroughly. And we've said that we need punishments to be consistent, and we need things to be looked into with the same thoroughness and speed that this Everton case has. There you have it. There you have it. But we'll obviously wait and see what happens more and more so with this situation going forward. Like I say, I would expect it to probably linger in the background after another week or two of this. We'll wait and see. We'll wait and see on that one. International break. International break is finally over, people. We have reached the end of the international break and the final international break of the year. We don't have to put up with another international break or be subject to Southgate ball anymore for another, 4-5 months? Something along those lines. Thank God for that. Thank God for that. This was obviously the most pointless international break as far as being in England, or if you are an England fan, goes, because obviously England were already through. And even when England were already through, Southgate still subjected us to boring, predictable football. And not just boring, predictable football, but a boring, predictable lineup. I said that this would be a very good opportunity for Southgate to try out some of these fringe players that have been very good this season, on the edge of breaking in, didn't need to risk playing his proper team, could have experimented a little bit more. Instead, he took his proper team. The fact that Calvin Phillips still gets into this squad is baffling. The fact that Jordan Henderson is still in this squad is baffling. I don't get it. I don't get it. You were against Malta and Macedonia, and you still couldn't play good football to beat them. You still needed own goals in both games to not only help you beat Macedonia, but you also needed an own goal to help you draw to Malta. I've been calling for Southgate out for a long time. He's not doing anything to win me over. Next year in the Euros, he could probably fluke his way to a triumph. He could actually fluke his way to winning the Euros. I wouldn't put it out of the realms of possibility because this England squad is good enough to be good competitive challengers to any major international tournament. But you need the brains behind the operation. You need the orchestrator to conduct the orchestra properly. And we don't have that. We have a guy who, against any team, goes really defensive, really cautious, and protects the most liability kind of players in his team. The reason why Harry Maguire looks good in England's side is because he's allowed to be, because he's got like 5 other defenders around him and the goalkeeper. What's with the ultra-defensive style of play? The most boring style of play. They are not exciting to watch. When you look at this team on paper, they should be exciting. They should be exciting to watch. The amount of talent on display. The amount of flair and creativity and speed and pace and everything that makes football exciting is on display within this England side. You've got the creative outlets of Trent Alexander-Arnold, and I know he was injured, but you still got James Maddison in there as well. You've got wingers like Bukayo Saka and Phil Foden to an extent. I know that obviously he likes to play more centrally, but you've still got Phil Foden. You've still got the likes of Raheem Sterling. Marcus Rashford on his day can be electric. Sterling's not even in the side. Sterling's not even in the side. Like, where's the logic there? You've got Harry Kane up front, one of the most deadliest strikers in today's game, and you're not feeding him or giving him enough chances. You've got a midfield that could consist of, I know obviously, again, Jude Bellingham, exciting and amazing as he is, injured right now, I get it. But beyond him, you've got Declan Rice. Provides that perfect balance for you. You've got the potential of a James Ward-Prowse, who you should really have given an opportunity to in this in this international break. Like I say, Trent Alexander-Arnold can fit in there as well. You've got Reece James when he's fit. You've got Kyle Walker, the pace of Kyle Walker. Like, don't get me wrong, I find Kyle Walker to be somewhat a little bit overrated. But at the same time, I know that defensively, he's got the pace to recover. And I know that offensively, he's got the pace to go forward and create problems of an overlap and an overload down that right-hand side. You've got Kieran Trippier, again, with creativity and who is very solid from set pieces, as well as being a solid defender. I'm baffled. I'm baffled by the fact that you've got this team that has got so much in its arsenal that you just don't want to unleash it. And instead you want to put restrictions on the way that they play. And you want to say, let's be a bit more cautious against the likes of Malta and Macedonia. Honestly, the sooner Euro 2024 is over, the sooner we get rid of Southgate and the sooner we actually put in a manager with a bit more of an attacking prowess and a bit more forward thinking behind the operation is the time that I will actually get more excited for England. In the meantime, yeah, we could win the Euros next year. We very much could win the Euros next year because Southgate can really fluke his way to winning that Euros. And it wouldn't honestly surprise me. But here's the thing. We'll get through the group stage as we usually do because we'll have a very or a relatively favourable group, shall we say. We'll get through the group stages. We'll come up against a France or a I can't even think on top of my head, or like a Spain or something. We'll come up against a serious challenge like a France or a Spain. We'll bottle it. We'll go 1-0 up as we tend to do or something. And then we'll bottle it because we'll go too defensive. Their pressure will tell. They'll go forward and they'll win the game and knock us out. Because whenever we go into these tournaments, the moment we face a little bit of a challenge, England crumble because our manager isn't bold enough, isn't brave enough, and isn't the right fit for what this team can do, what this team has, anything along those lines. It's just poor. It's just extremely poor from England, from the FA, and from Gareth Southgate that this guy has continued to be our manager going forward for as long as what he has. I called for it after 2018. I said after 2018, as good as what the World Cup was for bringing everybody together, as good as what the World Cup was in terms of a proper feel-good factor, England were winning games. England managed to overcome that horrific penalty nightmare to actually go through on penalties, even though it wasn't convincing. We still had to overcome that at some point, and we did that to the goodest extent that we could. It was still not good enough because the moment that we faced a difficult challenge in the form of a Croatian side, who we went 1-0 up, by the way, the moment that we went 1-0 up and we started to sit back and we were like, let's see out this 1-goal lead, even though it was like 5 minutes into the game that we took the lead or something, that's when everything started to crumble. And I said at the time, the moment we faced a difficult challenge was the moment we crumbled. And that set a precedent going forward that the moment we faced difficult challenges, we started to crumble. Because what happened when we went into the Euros in 2021? Oh, we had a very favourable run to the final. But the moment we faced a difficult side in Italy, who, in my opinion, were one of the favourites, I said that they were my pick to win, I believe. I know I had a bet on them to win the Euros. I also said France as well, but I also were cautionable. But I also cautioned France because I think they have a similar situation where their manager knows how to win, but it's not exactly favourable, I think, to their entirety of their squad. I said Italy were strong. And the moment that we faced Italy in the final, again, we went 1-0 up early. We didn't do anything for the rest of the game. Harry Kane was anonymous. Our creativity wasn't there. The substitutions were wrong. And then ultimately, we lost in a penalty shootout. In a game that really shouldn't have gone to a penalty shootout because we could have actually got on the front foot. We could have really pressed at Italy and we could have really gone for the kill when we went 1-0 up, but we didn't. And again, Wrong decisions in terms of substitutions, wrong decisions in terms of squad, no creativity in that side whatsoever. Heavily reliant on being defensive with a back five plus 2 defensive midfielders, one of which doesn't play any minutes for his club at all. It was shocking from Gareth Southgate. It was very poor from him. It was very poor from the England side. And again, it happened a few years later as well. Again, you get through the group stage of the World Cup favourably, easily, and then you face a difficult challenge in the form of France, and you bottle it. Rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. The moment this England side faces any sort of tough challenge, they bottle it. And it all stems from the manager. And the fact of the matter is that with the side that we have, if we are to go a bit more attacking, if we are to go a bit more on the front foot, if we are to go a bit more forward thinking, we won't be in those kinds of situations. Yeah, there might be 1 or 2 games where, you know, depending on the quality of the opposition, it might cause us a bit more food for thought. But with what we have at our disposal, the incredible amount of balance that we could have within that starting 11 and the squad as a whole, if he picks the right players, there's really no need for that. We could go on to really be really successful in these kinds of tournaments, but we never hire the right manager. We never hire the right manager. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, like I say, international break's finally over with. Club football returns this weekend. Thank the Lord for that. Thank the Lord that club football has returned after what seems like an eternity, really, doesn't it? It's been a very long couple of weeks, it seems. Club football does return. What an incredible way to return, by the way. Convenient, isn't it? Saturday lunchtime, 12:30. Liverpool taking on Manchester City, away from home are Liverpool at the Etihad. Massive game. Liverpool looking to really lay down a statement this weekend. I won't talk too much about it because obviously I want to do that in my predictions video. City obviously are looking to go back to winning ways after a 4-4 draw with Chelsea before the international break. Chelsea played good that day. City, not so much. And it proved that if you can really stick at City for 90 minutes, you can get them to be really on the back foot. You can get them to fear you rather than it be the other way around. And let's face it, City also got very fortunate with a couple of refereeing decisions that went in their favour. Still don't think it was a penalty on Erling Haaland in the first half, but I digress. Massive game on Saturday. But again, and I want to rant about this again because it actually does annoy me. Another 12:30 kickoff on a Saturday for Liverpool. 14 times in the past 3 or 4, however many years it has been, that Liverpool are being put on a 12:30 kickoff. I think it's going to be 15 by the end of the year. I think we've got another one in December. That's another 12:30 game. Absolutely ridiculous. Because the next team below us that have actually had, if we were to have that kind of league table, is 6 for Tottenham or something. Absolutely ridiculous. Especially when you consider that both Man City and Liverpool have a number of players that are playing in South America or anywhere else across the world. That is going to make for difficult travelling, shall we say. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. But yeah, the Premier League and Sky and TNT all working together on the scheduling just do not care. They do not care. And it is what it is. I'm not exactly going into the game with incredibly high hopes because it's away from home, and I do have concerns about Liverpool's away form. I also have my concerns with 12:30 kickoffs as far as what Liverpool are concerned. I know that we've won the two that we've had so far this season, but at the same time, they have been against Wolves and Everton, so games that we should win. I think the Everton game was at home as well, I believe. I think it was at Anfield. I'm sure it was at Anfield. Sure, it was at Anfield as well. I'm pretty sure the Wolves one was away from home, but I'm pretty sure the Everton one was at home. So, yeah, we should still win those games anyway. But at the same time, our away form has not been great. So I do worry. But yeah, what a way for Premier League to return this weekend with those two in action. The current top two in the division as well. Liverpool is a chance to lay down a real statement. For the City, it's a chance to really pull ahead of the Reds in second place. I think if obviously one of these two teams can do that, it would make for a great and interesting viewing, particularly Liverpool. If Liverpool get a big win, that is really going to throw the cat amongst the pigeons in terms of it being anybody's league, because it shows that City are still vulnerable, and it shows that Liverpool may go from strength to strength in terms of that mentality boost of actually beating a Man City, something that they struggle to do, and they, especially when they're at the Etihad, they struggle to do anyway. But if Liverpool can win, that'd be a massive boost for them. That'd be a massive boost for them in terms of their confidence and mentality going forward. But in terms for City, like if they could put some daylight between themselves and Liverpool a little bit, get back to winning ways, show that they can still go in these big games, that would be big as well for them. And if Liverpool do win as well, it would be big for other teams as well, because this Liverpool side, many people will tell you, and myself included, aren't entirely convincing. They still have that odd performance in them, which they tend to take too casually and tend to slip up in. Look at a couple of weeks ago when they faced Luton, for example. They do have that kind of performance still within them, and people are still questioning whether that makeshift DM they have in Alexis McAllister or even Endo is quite up to task. I'd say no. It'll be interesting to see what January brings around for the Reds, whether it's going to be whether it is going to be a new DM that walks through the door in January to really boost their chances of winning a trophy at the end of the season, or even challenging for the league title comes around, or whatever the case may be. But it really would. It really would, like I say, it really would throw the cat amongst the pigeons if Liverpool are to go on and win this game, because I think it would be a big boost to the likes of Arsenal and whoever else is seemingly wanting to challenge Manchester City this season for that title, because they know that City can be got at, and they know that Liverpool still have that odd, awkward performance within them that causes them to drop points. So, be very interesting. Be very interesting to see what happens. I'm very much looking forward to the game. In some cases, and in some cases, I am terrified and I am worried because, like I say, Liverpool's away form isn't great. Liverpool's away form still terrifies me. Liverpool away from home at the Etihad terrifies me even more. So we'll wait and see. We'll see what kind of performance Liverpool throw out there. I'm still annoyed that it's a 12:30 game. I'm still annoyed that the Premier League doesn't take into account international breaks anymore. They just see it as, this is the biggest game of the weekend. This is going to make us money. This is going to have the most eyes on it. We should put this forward. No, just have it on the Sunday. What's the big deal about that? Have it on the Sunday. Easy. Or have it Saturday night even. Have it on the Saturday night or have it on the Sunday. Why do you need to have it at 12:30? Why? It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, that's the reality and the world we live in. So we just got to make do with that. Other games coming up this weekend. I completely forgot off the top of my head, so let me just quickly bring it up. Burnley versus West Ham, Luton Crystal Palace, Newcastle Chelsea. That should be a very interesting game. Chelsea seemingly picking up a bit of a head of steam right now. Newcastle obviously are Newcastle with a hell of a lot of injury concerns as well. Chelsea will certainly be fancying their chances of taking apart a weakened Newcastle side. Forest against Brighton. Forest can be tough at home. Brighton, not quite the Brighton we've seen of them in the past few years, but again, similarly to Newcastle, they are suffering with a few injury concerns themselves. Sheffield United, Bournemouth, big relegation 6-pointer there. Brentford, Arsenal, that should be a very interesting game for your Saturday night viewing. But again, why couldn't that have been like the 12:30 game and the Liverpool game in the half-5 game? Or why couldn't they have had the Liverpool City game on at 8 o'clock at night, which is what they've done a few times this season, particularly to Manchester United? Or the Monday game. Apparently there's a Monday game of Fulham, Wolverhampton Wanderers. I can't imagine a lot of people are going to be tuning. Well, that sounds disingenuous to say, but it's not as advertising, shall we say, as Liverpool City. I'll put it that way. My bad for being disrespectful like that. Sunday, we'll see Tottenham against Aston Villa. I can't wait for that game. I'm very much interested in that game. Big top four clash there between the Tottenham side who are looking to get back to winning ways. It'll be interesting to see if Postecoglou has changed his ways over the course of the international break, how he sets up for that game, particularly after obviously losing back-to-back games to the likes of Chelsea and then Wolverhampton Wanderers as they did. Aston Villa, of course, are flying right now, but their away form could be in use of a bit of a tidy-up, admittedly. So it'll be interesting to see how both those teams approach that one. Everton United, I'm interested in that one as well because Everton... It'd be interesting to see how Everton's response is to obviously what has happened this whole week. United possibly could be in the worst place at the wrong time, but United are, on paper at least, the most informed team in the Premier League right now. So United's form, coupled with Everton's anger, I guess you could say, about being given the sanction that they have, it could make for a very intriguing game, to say the least. Very intriguing. I'm just looking at that as well. Next weekend, there is no 12:30 game, but there was another 8 o'clock game in which Manchester United are away from home against Newcastle. Why? Why is there no 12:30 game there, but there's a 12:30 game this weekend when Liverpool are taking on City? It doesn't make any sense. It genuinely doesn't make any sense. The week after, you got an 8 o'clock game. You tell me you couldn't have had an 8 o'clock game this weekend if you were to put City Liverpool on TV? Really? 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 Oh, these morons, man. These people, they're absolutely insane. They are absolutely insane. These people are crazy. I'm baffled by it. I'm truly, truly baffled by it. And again, it's another 8 o'clock game for Manchester United. So is that okay for United fans? Is that not okay for United as a team? I don't know if that actually is or not. So I'll be interested to know from United fans' perspective, because obviously there are obviously different scenarios for different teams. So I'm just wondering if the 12:30 games for Liverpool are okay, but the 8 o'clock games for United are not, or if the 8 o'clock games, they don't really affect United that much. I'm interested to know because obviously, like I say, it's different for different teams and everything. So I'm very much interested to know about that particular subject as well. But I cannot wait for the Premier League to return. Southgate ball is over and done with now for the next few months. Yeah, I'm interested. Also, I just wanted to also say West Ham, they take on Burnley this weekend. Now, obviously, with what's happened with West Ham this week, I'm interested to know from you lot, is Is West Ham's season in red hot danger? Mikel Antonio is said to be ruled out for a minimum of 6 months, allegedly. Jared Bowen has also picked up an injury across international break, which may see him out for the rest of the season, for the next 9 months or so. I'm interested to know what West Ham fans think about that and whether or not their season is going to take a big hit now, because that is those two are very big sources of your season so far. Antonio's goals contribution hasn't exactly been massively high, but when he wants to turn up, he is a massive threat and a big thorn in the side of many an opposition defence. Jared Bowen, incredible start to the season, continuously bagged for West Ham time and time again throughout the start of this campaign. A massive reason as to why you are where you are right now. I'm just wondering if this is a massive hit to your season. Is there anyone that you got to step up? I know that Paqueta has been very good this season. I know he's been pretty decent during this campaign. I know that obviously Mohamed Kudus is slowly warming up to the Premier League and to obviously the squad as a whole. So I'm very much intrigued as to West Ham's season going forward, and obviously the implications of those two big injuries to those two big players. So I'm interested to know. I'm interested to understand the thoughts and feelings of that behind West Ham. Like I say, I'm very much interested in looking forward to the Liverpool game, obviously for my team, if I'll be a bit concerned by it as well. And I'm very much looking forward to Sunday. Sunday should be a very interesting day. 2 games on that Sunday. Tottenham, Aston Villa. Very much looking forward to a massive top 4 clash there, which should make very exciting and interesting viewing. I'm also very much interested in the Everton-Manchester United game that will follow. Very much interested to know about United's form, how United react, whether the international breaks come at the right time for Erik ten Hag and for Manchester United, and I'm very much interested to know the response of Everton and Everton's supporters as well to obviously what has transpired at the club this weekend. So very much looking forward to it. Very much looking forward to this weekend. Interested in looking at obviously the situation unfold between Chelsea, Manchester City, and Everton. England's situation under Gareth Southgate is bleh at best, but whatever the case may be, there it is what it is. But yeah, those are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it at this time. Know what you guys think. What do you make of any of the stuff that I talked about in this video? What do you make of anything that is going on in the world of football right now? Leave your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, in the comment section, because I'm sure it'll make for interesting, great reading, and it's also stuff that I can maybe pick up on for another live stream or video later on down the line. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new and want to see more content like this. Both things are always very greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fetch. This has been another Fetch Talks video, and I'll see you all again soon in a video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Thanks everyone for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Take care.